In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Today, God willing, I will explain three other verses about the seven skies. Number 1, chapter 6, chapter An'am, verse 125. It explains about the believers and the non-believers. It says, whomsoever Allah intends that He would guide him aright, He expands his chest for submission. And whomsoever He intends that He should cause him to err, He makes his chest narrow and constricted, as if he were ascending upwards in a sky. The believers have tolerance when they are confronted with problems. And the more submission they have to God, the more their tolerance is. Chapter 94, chapter Inshirah in Quran, the whole chapter is about the extreme tolerance that God had given to the Prophet Muhammad. But when the non-believers are confronted with important problems, they become disturbed and breathe fast. This verse refers to a scientific fact. If one goes upwards in the sky because the amount of the oxygen decreases, he breathes fast, and the more he goes up, the faster he breathes. Number 2, chapter 7, chapter Safat, verse 6. It states, surely we have adorned the nearest sky with the adornment, the planets. I looked at two different English translations of Quran. The word kawakib, which is used in this verse that I read, these two English translations had translated them to stars, but kawakib is plural of kawkab. Kawakib does not mean stars, it means planets. The stars are very big, large, and hot, and our sun is one of them. But the planets are much, much smaller than the stars. Our Earth is one of the planets. And these planets move around the sun. The nearest sky in the first one of the five skies, which have air, this sky contains water. If at a dark night we look upwards at the sky, we see 6,000 stars. That is the most number of the stars that we can see on any part of the earth that we are. Of course, with the naked eye and not using telescopes. The stars that we see on the earth, that is at the first sky, the area that we live in, have interesting glares. This is because their light reflects in the water droplets, which are on the first sky, on the troposphere. The diamond's beauty is because the light reflects in it, but a piece of glass does not glare because the light does not reflect in it. The light that reflects in these water droplets make them shiny and brilliant. I will repeat the verse again. It states, "Surely we have adorned the nearest sky with an adornment, the planets." Why here instead of the stars, God mentions the planets as adornments? The reason is that when we look at the stars, 5 of them are brighter and prettier than the other stars. But these 5 are not stars, in fact. They are planets. Other planets that I said move around the Earth. We see 5 of them which are closer to us, and we see them very big and bright. This beauty of the stars and planets is just at the nearest sky, at the sky that we live in it. At the other 4 skies, and also above them, there is no water droplets. So the stars and the planets are not pretty. The astronauts who have gone into the sky, they said that the stars look like chalk powder which is poured on a blackboard. Number 3 of the 3 verses that I said I will explain today. Chapter 41, chapter for Salat, verses 11 and 12. Verse 11. In the previous 2 verses before verse 11, Quran has stated that God created the earth and gives very important scientific informations about the earth. But because these informations are about the earth and not the sky, I do not talk about them. God willing, I will talk about them in another session later on. Then at the chapter 11, Quran states, "Then he directed himself to the sky, and it was a special smoke. So he said to it and the earth, come both willingly or unwillingly. They both said, we come willingly." According to this verse, after the earth was created, the sky was a special smoke. The regular smoke is composed of carbon powder and carbon monoxide, CO. But the smoke, this smoke that God talks about it, says it was a special smoke. It was carbon powder and carbon monoxide, but it also had water vapor and some other gases which had come out of the volcanoes. At the beginning, these smokes and gases which would come out of the volcanoes would go higher and higher in the sky and would disperse in the sky outside of the earth. But at this time, because their amount increased, and also because of the attraction force of the earth, gradually these gases started to remain on the sky and became more and more. So the amount and the composition of the new sky was dependent on the cooperation, on the attraction force of the earth and the amount and composition of the gases which would come out of the volcanoes. This is the cooperation of the earth and the sky that the verse talks about it. B, verse 12. It says, so he ordained them 7 skies in 2 periods, and revealed in every sky its affair. And we adorned the lowest sky with brilliant lights, and made it to guard. That is the decree of the mighty, full of knowledge. I first talk about the first part of this verse, which says, so he ordained them 7 skies in 2 periods. In the first session, previous session that I talked about the 7 skies, I explained that the 7 skies are composed of 5 skies that have air, and 2 skies, in fact, spheres, 5 spheres which have air, and 5 spheres which do not have air but have a strong magnetism. Now I will briefly explain about making these 7 skies in 2 periods. The early living organisms, the bacteria, early animals, plants, and trees, did not use oxygen. In fact, oxygen was poison for them and would kill them. 1.7 billion years ago, each billion is 1,000 millions. 1.7 billion years ago, gradually free oxygen started being produced. Before this time, there was oxygen in the air, but it was combined with other elements, especially carbon in the form of carbon dioxide, CO2, and hydrogen in the form of water. But 1.7 billion years ago, the surface of the earth, on the surface of the earth, the green grasses, green trees, and green leaves, bushes with the leaves, came into existence, and in the sea, green algae came into existence. All of these were green. The green color of them was because of chlorophyll in them. And chlorophyll, by using the ultraviolet light of the sun, changes the composition of CO2 in the air. It gets its carbon and uses this carbon in the metabolism of the plant, and the oxygen would be free in the air. So gradually, free oxygen came into existence in the air and also by the green algae in the sea. By increasing the amount of the free oxygen, gradually the existing bacteria, animals, and animals died because, as I said, oxygen was poisonous for them. And at the present time, there is a very small amount of them left, which are in the areas that there is no oxygen there. But the vegetables and animals that use oxygen came into existence. Then the mammals, larger animals and mammals are the animals that deliver baby, not putting eggs, deliver baby and feed their babies by their breasts. And finally, the human being came into existence. God made them. So the gases which are around the earth have had two periods. In the first period, there was no free oxygen in the air, and in the second period, which is still continuing, there is abundance of oxygen, which caused the animals and finally the human being be made by God. The second part of the verse that I translated states, and God, I have not translated all the verse, but the amount that I translated, the second part of it states, and God revealed in every sky its affair. In the first session of the seven skies topic, last time that I talked about the seven skies and said that each of them protects the life on the earth from lots of dangers which are outside of the earth and around us. The second part of the verse that I will translate now states, and we adorned the lower sky with brilliant lights and made it to guard. I have explained before that at the lower sky there is the water droplets, and we live in the area that there is water droplets. And because of that, the stars and the planets are very beautiful because the light reflects in them. About the second duty of the lower sky, which the verse states, and we made it to guard. Just this sky guards the life of the human being. I have said before that the lower sky that we live in it, the troposphere, it has all our needs for living. One, we need oxygen for breathing, and the lower sky has it, and in the proper concentration of 21%. Two, we need water, and the lower sky does have it. Three, we need vegetables, fruits, and also the herbivorous animals that eat plants. We need all these plants and animals so that we eat them, and the lower sky does have it. Thank you very much, and God bless you.